Hey everybody, Craig Cottle, Director of Nature Blind School. Here's what's going on. I was out in the woods. I was actually doing some study on some trees, and I heard a very distinctive sound that if you're out in the woods, this is what happened to you sometimes. You're out in the woods, it's dry, and there's not much wind, and then you hear like something falling from the trees like raindrops, and it's not raining. And when you finally figure out what this is, when you hear it in the future, which is what happened to me yesterday, you know exactly what it is, which is beech nuts. So there's a bunch of beech trees in this area. So I'm gonna go down here and show you, first off, how to identify a beech tree. And then we're gonna find some of these nuts in this area. So this is a mixed hardwood forest. I just passed one beech tree, but there's a big one down here. Gives a better look-see. But a beech tree looks like this. Pretty easy tree to identify in that it has a very smooth bark, and you'll more often than not see what appears to be these spots that are on the bark itself. This bark is incredibly what most people refer to as tight to the tree, meaning you don't have deep furrows and it doesn't feel like it's going to pull apart anything. This is incredibly tight, almost as if it feels like a skin, if you will. So these beech trees, one of the things they were used for many years ago was Aboriginal cultures would peel this bark off and make canoes out of them. So that's pretty cool. But as far as the leaf structure is concerned, let's go down here and look at the leaves. So you'll see that on this branch, here is me looking through the particular beech leaves. Let me pull one off for you. Well, before I do that, take a note here that the beech leaves are, you'll note, try to get a good one you can see right here. These two, these two right here are opposite of one another. And these two are opposite of one another with a terminal leaf at the end. But here's the thing that is an indicator of one particular leaf. Hold this up close. You'll see that it has a toothed margin to it, meaning it has little points on the edge. You'll see that it has a main vein along the length, as well as nearly parallel side veins coming off of the particular leaf section itself. One of the things that's real easy to identify about this tree is that it will hold those leaves through the whole winter. And you can use those leaves. It's only leaves that I actually recommend that you can utilize for fire starter, because they're always going to be off the ground, and for that reason they're going to be mostly dry, because they're getting a lot of air circulation around them and they stay relatively dry. Now I'm going to do what I can. Let's see if I can change this up a bit. Right here you're going to see a large number of beech nuts along the ground. And I really don't understand why, but they almost all just start to fall off at the same time. Now, not sure if you could see those with the way I held the camera, so what I'm going to do is set this up and go get a handful and bring them back. But here's what you need to know about these guys, is that they're going to be like this for a short while. When the squirrels and the deer find them, which I saw deer already feeding on these right here earlier today, they're going to be gone, because when they hit the ground, man, they are a delicacy for these critters out here. So that's a pretty average size of the shell itself. And one of the beauties of these guys is that you can pull these open typically with your finger. There's one that I pulled apart with my fingers. Now these, just like like most nuts, are going to have a lot of tannins in them. Here's the actual nut itself. They're going to have tannins in them, which is going to make them not real palatable, and your digestive tract's not going to like a lot of them. but they're not terrible, okay? But it's one of them things you don't want to eat a lot of because it's problematic for your digestive tract. So if you find these, you can collect them and put them in a pot of water, and you can just let them sit, and the tannins will leach out of these beech nuts, and then you can utilize those beech nuts to eat and pound into flour or any number of things. But you can also boil them and make that process go quicker, but I prefer to just let them sit and let the tannins seep out. Seems to work really well. But yeah, this is the beech tree. I hope that you can get a good look from the video on the bark as well as the leaf structure, and have some uses for both camping and survival, you know, fire building. Another thing that these trees, I'm sitting here trying to think of other uses for it. Another thing that I utilize these for is, number one, when I was a kid, I played in them all the time. If you can tell, this tree is one of the few trees in this forested area here that's going to have branches that are close to the ground. So kids could find this tree out in the middle of a forest and climb it, which makes it a fun tree. And also, because it has so many branches down low, and each of those branches branch off quite a bit, I will more often than not utilize this species to make traps with, trap triggers and stuff of that nature, because there's so many branches and it's easy to set up a twitch snare or whatever it might be from utilizing the branches with a few simple cuts. And so you're not going to harm the tree that way because there's so many branches. Just make sure that you're cutting into the collar, or you're cutting where it branches off, so that the growth that will not basically create an injury for this tree to get injured. And when they get injured, that's where sickness can enter in. So that's some ideas on the beech tree. Really fantastic tree out here. Some foresters, wildlife biologists, are not big fans of them because they can kind of take over an area. Meaning because they hold their leaves, and they're shade tolerant, so they're going to grow even in the shade. But for our purposes here on this particular mixed hardwood forest, they're working really well. Food for the squirrels, food for the deer, food for me and you when you go out. As always, come on, join in. Let's learn together. Hey, I hope you liked the video. If you did, then consider subscribing to us on YouTube, liking us on Facebook, and as always, we would love to have you join us in a class.